Hello and welcome to the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It is, what is it, Wednesday? Is it Tuesday or Wednesday, people? I think it's Wednesday, the 12th of February, 2020. I've been so distracted by my wonderful guest this morning, I forgot to even look at the thing at the place. So let me get them up. I have got guest host this morning, Wes Sturdevant.
Hello. You got my name right now?
I got it that time. Yeah, he is an author and a blogger, and he's joining us. He's aspiring to create his own channel in the future. So this is some experience for him. And we got, look at that, Miss Samantha McGuire. She's from American Atheists. How are you doing, Miss Samantha?
I'm good.
I got that Texan in me, so I got to do the Miss thing.
I know. I feel like I'm back when I used to work in the schools because the kids all called me Miss McGuire or Miss Samantha in kindergarten. So yeah.
So, thank you guys for joining us. Let me do a quick shout out to the people in the chat because we've got like a little following of wonderful people. Kristen is here. She is awesome. Kristen is one of the people. She helps out showing the show around. Kristen, Old Man Dan. So I'm trying to do this without my glasses. So this is a running thing with us. I just can't. Okay. Old Man Dan. Amanda. Good morning, Amanda. Nerdy Rodent. El Rodento de Nerdo. And then Mathpig is here this morning. Mathpig he's one of my friends. He is awesome. He's a lot of fun. Even Jay is here. All these people. There's a lot of people here this morning. Miss Samantha, if you don't mind, I'm going to let Wes quickly introduce himself, and then we're going to get to you. So Wes, if you'll.
I don't know what to say about myself. You wrote an awesome little thing about my blurb of my life, and you made me sound interesting somehow.
Well, I have to tell you're the first Bilby on the show.
And most of my life is just on Facebook. I run a lot of groups, admin for religion, secular humanism, which is great for her. I want to ask her about that.
Yeah.
And then a lot of religious debating going on and stuff with the Christians I do.
And I'll also help you out in that he writes books. He also writes books.
Yeah, so, I've got several started.
Yes, I jammed him on the live stream today, and he might, so help us work with him. So good morning, Miss Samantha.
Yes, hi. How
you are the National Field Director. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Of American Atheists. Yep. What do you do? What's it? What is it?
What is that?
yeah. You cracked the book on Justin, is that right?
Yeah. So the National Field Director, the main part of my job is to find us volunteers and work with them in as many states as we can, and and then we can talk about the things that we have them go do in a little bit, but that's the main gist of it. And then we also have about 200 affiliate groups across the country. And so working with them, giving them some resources and things like that. So that's the really short version of what I do. Okay.
And I want to obviously carry on, but while we're here at this point, where are you from?
Where am I from in the movement, or where am I from literally?
Well, in the movement, you were telling me just before the show, we were having a little chat, and you were telling us how you're from American Humanist. Is that right?
I was the president. We rewind a little bit. I live in Southern Maryland in St. Mary's County, which is a pretty conservative area and pretty kind of homogeneously. People think of Maryland as being very blue and very progressive, but that's only from the DC to Baltimore corridor. And anything outside of that is fairly rural. We do live in a place near a Navy base, so there's a little bit more diversity than some other areas of Maryland. But it is fairly Christian, it's fairly white, it's fairly Republican. And so I landed there from Amherst, Mass, where I am right now at my dad's house, which is very, very, very progressive and very, very, very accepting and diverse. And so moving there, I started looking for some community, and there was none, so I started one. And I started the Southern Maryland Area Secular Humanists. And it was just a little group, I started to meet up in a Facebook and started doing that. And then that became a chapter of Washington Area Secular Humanists, which is a regional group in DC. There's 14 chapters from Virginia and DC and Maryland. And so that group kind of took us on as a chapter in Southern Maryland. And then eventually I was on the board, and then I was president of that board. So that's that piece of my activism background, is helping really small groups start up. So we have a group in Lynchburg, Virginia, which is Falwell country. We have a group in Roanoke, which is way out on the kind of panhandle. And then we have Charlottesville, Fredericksburg, Northern Virginia, DC, kind of the northern side of the Beltway of Maryland, Southern Maryland, Fredericksburg, and Baltimore. So, you know, it's a pretty active group. There's lots of stuff going on there. Through that, in the 2016 Reason Rally, 2012 and 2016 Reason Rally, Washington area secular humanists coordinated all the volunteers that were the people who were like, go there, let me answer your question. So we had about 200, in 2016, we had about 200 volunteers working across 4 days of the event. And so I was on the board of the Reason Rally Coalition, and so then made a lot of connections with national org leaders. And but I saw American Atheists moving in a direction that I liked, where they were doing a lot more local grassroots organizing and giving resources to local groups and giving toolkits to local groups. That was my predecessor, Jim Helton. He did a fantastic job at that. And I saw that and I started volunteering for them more. I became assistant state director, then regional director as a volunteer. And so then when Jim's position became available, I applied for it. So that's how I ended up here.
There you go. Well, that's like a lot of activism over quite. I mean, so you know your business. Wow.
Yeah,
so
I've been busy.
I know. I've talked about this a couple of times. I am not a member, nor have ever been a member of the American Atheist. And you're like, why? Why would I not? I mean, I wrote a book called Anti-Theist back in 2013. I've had a Facebook page. I have been doing the thing. I came to Albuquerque. That's where I'm at now. And I immediately got here. I landed. I ran down and I tried to join up with the Freedom from Religion Foundation folks. And me and the guy, I mean, it just kind of didn't work right. It just wasn't, the timing wasn't right. And then I come on and did my thing. But the reason why is because American Atheist was like way out here. In my mind sphere, it was just like something way over there. It didn't become present and real in my mind until I started doing this show and interviewing people. I'd heard of it. Oh yeah, there it is. It's over there. But it just wasn't, it was in my face. And I thought, well, here I am. And then I started looking, talk to Justin, look to see if there's representation here and how well that works. And I'm thinking, well, there might be a gap. What part can I play? Because I really like the direction, like you said, in which American Atheist is moving. Now I'm really left. Really politically left, and it's hard for me to not. So that'd be something I'd have to learn, is how to go, okay, I can't say anything political. I see other ones struggle with that, but I can see that being a hang up. But other than that, I don't even know that that'd be a hang up. Would it?
So here's the issue, is that we are a nonprofit, so we can't endorse candidates. We can't say vote for this person or that person. We can take positions on issues. All nonprofits can take positions on issues. So you can say, you know what? We are an atheist group. We're a secular humanist group. Our position on LGBT equality or this particular law or this particular policy is this. We feel like everyone should have equality and everyone should be treated equally, regardless of their gender identity or their sexual preference. And we are allowed to say that, right?
Okay.
So,
Wonderful.
and that's a position that American Atheists takes at a national level. It's one of the things that we work on with our local volunteers and our state level legislation grassroots work is conversion therapy bans. And trying to take down, we just submitted testimony on that terrible South Dakota bill that just went through, was trying to get pushed through. And so we do take positions on issues. We're not going to tell you necessarily which legislators or candidates take that same position. We figure that you are all informed viewers and voters and that you should go do your own research. So,
gotcha.
But you can absolutely take positions on particular issues.
I appreciate the difference. Thank you for that. It helps explain.
I have a whole webinar that we did on it. I'll send you the link.
Okay, absolutely.
So that's one of the things I'm doing, is standing up a webinar series on things like that, because people who are local group leaders also are like, oh, I've heard that I'm a nonprofit. I can't take a position on anything political, or the IRS will come knocking at my door and take away my 501c3. And that's just not true. So we worked with Secular Coalition for America and a bunch of the other groups that are members of Secular Coalition, and we brought in an outside expert on it, and they did a webinar. And so we're making that available to all of our volunteers and all of our affiliate groups. And so that's one of the sort of things I'm trying to do.
Great. Well, that's wonderful, because I mean, it's exactly that. I need to know the rules. I know there are rules if I'm going to be a member. I see nothing but benefit to becoming a member, considering who I am and what I'm doing. Why would I not?
So let's make a distinction there. Anyone can be a member, and our members can say anything they want because they're just members, right? They're just supporting the organization. I know that you had Zachary on, so I'm disappointed to hear that you haven't yet become a member, because he was really beating that drum, wasn't he? About everyone needs to give money to the causes that they are supporting.
I'm totally on that page with you. Yes, absolutely.
So becoming a member is one thing. Becoming a member allows us financially to support our state directors and assistant state directors, which then we have a little bit more training and sort of oversight of what people are saying and doing, because they are using a title. They are our Iowa state director, our Florida assistant state director. They're our assistant state director in Lubbock, Texas, right? And so they're using our name and they're using our resources, and they have an atheist.org email. So they're representing us. So we do a little bit more of, we're taking positions in these ways. We don't necessarily want to misrepresent the organization. And so there is a little bit of a higher level with our volunteers than just our members. But our members and contributors and donors are the people that support all of the good work that our folks are out there doing. So, and
they can be as political as they want.
Yeah, members can say whatever they want. They're just giving money because they want to be a member of American Atheists. There's lots of people who are members of lots of groups, right? I'm a member of American Atheists. I give money to Secular Coalition. I'm a member of American Humanist Association. I've given money to other causes in the past, and so it's perfectly okay to be members of all of the things.
Absolutely, join all the things.
Yeah, join all the things.
Yeah, so like when I came here to Albuquerque, it's not an FFRF or American Atheist. I can do both. And, that was, of course, now, like I said, when I got here, my mind went to FFRF. That's kind of just what I thought. The American Atheist wasn't even in my mental sphere but now it is because of those things. But that's the problem here. We need more. We need a voice. We need, that's what me and Justin have been talking about me and Zach have been talking about as far as American Atheist is getting out. Now, you've been talking about this big, huge movement you've got on the East Coast. I got nothing here.
Right. Yeah. And that's a struggle over various places, right? We have not very much going on in the Pacific Northwest. Surprisingly, we have no current state director in the state of California.
Really?
So that's my job, is to find those people who are interested in being involved in activism, interested in starting communities and or working with the communities that already exist, finding people who are interested in, like I said, working on state level legislation, but also, you've talked to Tracy, right? Her group is doing amazing things. They're doing community service. They're helping the homeless. They're doing wonderful things at building a community in Lubbock that atheists, humanists, and agnostic folks are all feeling welcome at. And so that's part of my job too. So we have the activism side of it, we have the community side of it, and then most groups also have an educational piece where they'll bring in speakers, they'll watch videos, they'll talk about issues that are relevant to us and as an atheist and humanist community. So that's
gotcha.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
They've all been
find people in New Mexico and California and Oregon and
Texas. Yeah.
We have lots of people in Texas, but yeah.
That's wonderful. That's kind of the deal. I'm looking forward to getting him becoming a part of it or trying to. And then, of course, I told Zach that they may have somebody. I don't know. Are you the person to talk to? I don't know. I applied last week and I haven't heard anything back.
I've been on the road.
You've been on the road. You did. And I totally get that. But I don't know. When you go to the American Atheist website, in one place it says you have somebody, in another place it says you do not. So my deal is, I don't know if you have somebody. If you do, I want to start working with that person. I'm not trying to usurp anybody's nothing. I got no time for usurping. But if there's a space available there, I'd love to do it. That's kind of my position.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk after the show.
And what we could do, I would not be against holding like a little, I don't know. I want to think about it because I do. Obviously, I'm going to become a member regardless. That's neither thing. But can I hold some kind of little membership rally with my people on the show? Those who aren't, you know what I mean? Can I do something like that? I don't know. Let me put a couple brain cells.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely think about it. And and again, my job is I like coming on shows like this, but my job is to make sure that you are talking to the folks that are out there doing really good work. So right now I'm like, yes, I was just in New Hampshire, so I have something active to talk about that I'm working on specifically in activism. But normally when I'm asked to do a show, I'm like, you really should talk to Devin and Zachary and Justin other folks who are doing really cool stuff. So,
well, see that when you said that earlier, that caught my attention. When you said that you get your volunteers out there, and then you started naming those people, I was like, oh, she's the person. So, I do want to get more of the people. I've got a small sphere of American Atheist people who have been on my show. All the people you've mentioned have been on the show.
Yeah, Troy Moss is also doing excellent work in Indiana.
So I need to get with him.
Yeah, I'll give you a whole list.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love it. Yeah. So that's what Zach and I have been working on, is kind of swimming in the same direction with American Atheist and helping to be a voice, because we share the same message and the same path. Why not use my platform to get their word out? So,
right.
And then, of course, if I become a member and an SA, then it would be my word. So So, or an assistant SA or whatever the heck they need. I don't know. Just anything we can do to help, because it's people like you guys. Let's look at Devin, for example. Devin's down there fighting against the moment of silence. That's just one thing, though. That's
just one thing.
Right. That's one in. If they get that in, they'll go for the next thing, and then the next thing, and they'll just keep driving. That's just a wedge they'll use to drive more stuff in. And she's down there protecting our interests.
When you talked to Devin, did she talk about Project Blitz? Did you guys kind of cover what Project Blitz is?
Can you refresh my memory, and I'll let you know?
Yeah, so Project Blitz is a organized group of people, and they come into state legislatures with something that seems kind of innocuous. They call it a prayer caucus, and they come in and they say, hey, we're going to have the prayer caucus. We're going to do some religious talking about stuff as legislators all together. And you're kind of like, oh, okay, that's not very threatening in any way. But what they've done is they've put together model legislation to then give to those legislators to sponsor. And so that model legislation are things like In God We Trust on school walls, which again is sort of like, it's innocuous. We're opposed to it, but most people are like, oh gosh, that's just patriotism, or that's just, sort of just, that's the motto. It's not very threatening at all, right? Why should we be worried about that? And then they'll come in and do Bible literature classes where they're teaching the Bible in high schools, which of course we also oppose. And then one of the other ones, so they kind of escalate, right? So they put those in, and then they move to the next one. They have success, so they move to the next one. And so the next one will be, we're allowed to, as a adoptive, foster care and adoption agency, discriminate against folks that we don't agree with because of our religion. So that's usually LGBTQ folk, right? But also maybe people who are just the wrong kind of Christian, right? So there was a case pretty recently where there was a Christian organization that said they weren't going to adopt out to Catholic folks because they disagreed with their religious beliefs. So it's just used as a broad way to discriminate, and these laws are putting those loopholes in. Then there's another one that we've been working on a lot in Maryland that is healthcare discrimination. So healthcare providers also can discriminate based on their religious beliefs, right? So if I'm a doctor, I don't want to work with trans patients, I can just say, I don't have to work with you. It's against my religious beliefs.
That's right.
We're working against all of those laws in all of the states that are being introduced. And that's why we need like a Devin in each state. And we have a Devin in many states, but I want one in each of the states. So that's sort of my job, is to find a Devin who's willing to go to Tallahassee, and we write the testimony for her. And she can go and testify on these particular bills. We have a legal staff, and that's Allison Gill is our vice president of legal and policy, and she's amazing. And then we always have staff of fellows and interns and law clerks that are helping us each semester, that as they're going through the process of becoming attorneys themselves. And so they write the testimony, they do all the research, they have the footnotes of all of the legalese that you would be worried about having to find yourself is all right there. So you just go and testify. And so it's like cheating. Someone's done your homework for you. It's
That's
fantastic.
wonderful.
I love it.
That's wonderful. Real quick, Jay from In the Conspiracy Channel, he's a friend of mine. He asks if you know if there's anything we can do about the In God We Trust bumper stickers on police cars. That I've seen that in various places. I'm from Texas, so that's not a surprise. Is that a movement that American Atheist is addressing, or is that something more for the Freedom from Religion Foundation? And how do you separate the two?
So let me take the first part of that question first.
Please.
In God We Trust is the national motto. So what we have had success doing is opposing those things before they happen. And that is a real local grassroots effort, right? You have to do that in your city, in your county, in your town, before they get passed. Because what happens is these groups donate all of these stickers. So it's not even costing the taxpayer any money in a lot of cases. So they will donate the stickers and say, gosh, you should put this on your police car because it'll show how patriotic you are. And honestly, sometimes the police departments they don't have bad intent, right? They just come at it from a Christian privilege sense and a religious privilege sense. So they are like, yeah, of course we should put that on our car. And they don't think about the other religious minorities out there who don't have that same belief. And so if you can get into the town council, if you can get into the meeting where they're talking about that, if you can get into the board or whatever it is in your town or county or city and oppose it before it happens, then you have a good chance.
Absolutely.
That means you need to be a plugged in community member, right? You need to be watching your board of county commissioners. You need to be watching your town council meetings. You need to know what's going on. We are apathetic. Our community is real apathetic. We like to complain about all of the things after they happen, but we are not plugged into our communities. And it's a problem.
Yes.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, that's a perfect soapbox to be on. I just want to point out real quick, I'll let him pop in because I've been just dominating this whole thing. But I just want to point out, you talked about Blitzwatch. Here's blitzwatch.org. Miss Ann popped that in.
Yep, that is a coalition of groups that American Atheists has put together. There are people who are not atheists on there and not even humanists on there. There's it's a good coalition of groups. I can't rattle it off the top of my head, but I know that PFLAG is on there. Interfaith councils are on. So there's a lot of really great interfaith folks on there.
Gotcha. I don't know. I think your internet is. Are you still there?
Yeah. I'm still
yes. Another person has popped in. Sorry, you froze for a second. That's why.
Okay.
We were. I don't know if it was you. I'm going to blame Mathpig. Which it just happens to be. Let me introduce Atheist Pastor. He's one of my friends. He helps me on the show occasionally. His name is Chris too. So it's Chris and Chris. I am the amazing Super Chris, and he is Best Chris.
Easy to remember. G'day, everyone. How are we?
How are you?
And he's going to try to convince you that Australia is real.
I was thinking about moving there, but I heard it's on fire. So I guess Canada.
I can assure you it's not on fire at the moment. We're actually experiencing floods now. So we've had 5 days of torrential rain. Well, actually, we've had a few more than that, but I can take you for a walk outside, and we're all going to get wet.
Yeah, you were talking about that. When that happens here in the U.S., that does happen. As a matter of fact, she was talking about California earlier. What happens is California catches on fire, it burns up, all the trees on the mountains get burned away, and then the rain starts, just like you're experiencing, and all the landslides start happening because there's no trees and stuff to hold.
Here's something interesting for you. So California always catches on fire. You know why?
Oh yeah,
it's because back in the late 18th century, early 19th century, what they did was they actually imported these beautiful trees from Australia and planted them all throughout California. So it's actually a variety of eucalypts that you've got there, which is the same thing that catches on fire here. So it's the same kind of fire that you're getting over there that we get here.
They sold us crap trees. That's what it is. They sold us crap trees.
We can blame Australia, right?
Right.
Good deal.
I don't want to distract too much because she doesn't have a lot of time. So Chris, do you have any questions for Miss Samantha before we go too far?
I'll be honest, I have quite literally just come in. I've just gotten home, so I've missed everything. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy.
Okay, perfect. All right, Miss Samantha.
How big it was. Your organization, I mean, not just members, but members too, but how big are the higher-ups in your organization that you work with?
So how many people in your organization, as far as, do you know how many people in American Atheists? And then, of course, how many people?
Our staff, our members, there's a lot of different questions there.
Both, I think.
Yeah, so our staff is a lean, mean 9 people. So we are not a very big organization. That's one of the reasons we rely a lot on our volunteers. And so that's one of the reasons that we try to treat them really kindly and give them the resources they need and do things like pay for their mileage if they drive somewhere for us and reimburse some of their expenses if they come to the conference and that sort of thing. Because coming from a world of being a volunteer, I 100% understand the lift that it takes sometimes to get out there and do the things that we're asking you to do. So, I try to make sure that I'm real respectful of people's personal lives, of their challenges, of their limitations, but also try to drive them to go do the things that excite them. And so that's one of the things that, I really stress. I won't say my motto, which involves swearing, but it's
go ahead.
F the BS and do the things, right? And I don't care what the thing is. It can be different for each person, right? So like we talked about Tracy, she does community service within her group, but she also does invocations. I have other folks like Justin, of course, who's out there bird dogging candidates and trying to make sure that we have displays on the State House and things like that. So everybody gets excited about whatever their thing is, right? And I don't care if it's collecting blankets for dogs. I don't care what it is. Just get out there and do it. Put on your atheist hat, put on your humanist hat, and get out there into your community so that people are like, oh gosh, look, an atheist doing nice stuff, an atheist who's here being involved in the political process, an atheist who's out here doing the things, doing community service, who's cleaning the roads, who's doing whatever it is. And again, all of those things excite different people, right? So I'm not going to say to you, you know what, to be a volunteer, you have to go do this one thing. I'm going to say whatever the thing is that gets you excited, go out and do that, but do it with our name, do it with our face, make a friendly face in your community that is an atheist.
And for those who don't know, those who don't know, you can go to the American Atheist website and look at their individual states and see who they have. They've got a list of people in the states. If you want to volunteer, if you want to donate money in your state, you can look and see if there's a vacuum of, forgive me for the expression, a vacuum of power in your state that you could fill. There's volunteers. And so I got a lot of people. We've got like 17 or 18 people watching. Check in your state if you got the time and see who you can help. So I just wanted to show you.
And honestly, if there's somebody in your state, but there's not somebody in your city, again, what we were talking about is getting involved locally, right, at a grassroots level. So in Texas, we have like 6 volunteers. In Virginia, we have 9. In Kentucky, I think we have 8 right now. Okay. And those are in each of their little cities. So they're watching what their town council is doing, what their school district is doing, what their city is doing, right? Because all of those are issues too. And 9 staff can't watch that across the whole country. We just can't. We try real hard, but we can't. Right. And so we have to rely on our volunteers to be paying attention to what's going on in their town and then let us know. And then we can give you support, whether that's legal advice, whether that's testimony, whether that's writing an invocation for you, whether that's just sending you buttons and stickers and signs so you can go and table at the local Pride event. Whatever it is, we rely on them to tell us what it is that they need in their town.
So to jump in, obviously on a and I apologize if I'm asking a question that's very obvious, but you work on a national level, is that correct, Samantha?
Correct.
Yeah.
How have you found, I guess, with all the
right in my title?
Yes, excellent. I just want to double check because it's not that I don't believe it. I just don't trust the man up there. So.
You got to watch me. It would not be the first time I messed up a banner.
So as far as I guess one question I would have. American Atheists last year, there was, I guess, there was a lot of not necessarily controversy, but there was certainly some issues with David Silverman leaving the organisation. Has that had any negative, I guess, effects as far as volunteer numbers? I know he was fairly vocal about things. Did that have a negative effect, or has it sort of been able to sail on smoothly?
I'd say we're sailing on smoothly. So the thing about it is when you work with volunteers come and go. They don't always give you reasons, right? It could be they're getting a divorce and they just kind of fall off the radar because they're busy. It could be that they had got a new job and their commitments have changed, right? And so we always have volunteers kind of coming and going. And so we still have as many volunteers and more actually than while all of that happened. And we're really working to make sure that our volunteers, as I said, are actively engaged across their states and across their towns and across their cities. And so I think that people really like what we're doing. I think they like that we are involved in that level of down organizing in the grassroots, right? So other organizations will say, yeah, we have all these chapters, but they're not really giving them resources where we're like, what do you need? Email Sam. She will tell you what it is that you can have, and then I will send it to them, right? So I'm constantly getting emails where they're like, I'm going to be at this event and I need 50 buttons and 100 stickers and some signs. And I'm like, okay, great. And I drove across the state to go to this thing and I need gas mileage reimbursement. And so we're really giving people that support at that level to get involved in activism. And I think it's paying off. I really do. I think that you missed my earlier thing about what my motto is. But
go ahead, girl. Hit us with it. Go ahead.
F the book BS and do the things, right? So
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, whatever it is that is creating drama within the atheist community, I don't care. And honestly, most of our members don't care and most of our volunteers don't care. Right. They just want to get out there and be involved and do the things that they're doing and have the support from the national orgs. And we are doing that.
Now, as far as obviously you're a national organization, do you have any international roots? Is it purely a focus on the US, or do you have connections with other groups internationally?
Can I drop an addendum in on that just real quick? And part of the reason why that Chris is asking, he's considering doing something similar down in Australia. They don't really have a sister organization, if you will, that kind of meets, and he's got an interest in doing something like that of his own. So it's kind of a loaded question.
Very careful. Let me consult with question. Nick Fish, and then I'll get back to you. No, I'm just kidding.
Because my follow-up was going to be the state director for New South Wales. So
say that again, Chris?
I said my follow-up, depending on the answer, could be, do you need a state director for New South Wales? But we'll get to that way. But no, look, as far as obviously...
if I can get American Atheists to pay my airfare, absolutely, I'll come and work with you. No problem at all.
We'll make it work. But obviously, I guess especially with the advent, we are in a global community now. And I mean, even the fact that I'm talking to you, it's midnight for me and some ungodly early hour for yourself there. So obviously, atheism is a global movement at the moment, and I think it's important it's a global movement. Mm-hmm. American Atheists is probably the biggest international group regardless, but obviously is US-centric. But do you have any connections, or have you had any, I guess, alliances with other nations?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, it's, again, right in the title, American Atheists. So we work with our American groups and our American affiliates. But we do work in coalition with a bunch of other groups. We were talking about Secular Coalition for America right before you came on. And so that's a bunch of groups that are working together in the US to kind of affect change on policy at a national level. And then we have alliances with other organizations that work internationally. So, for instance, if I get someone who says they are in Egypt and they are ex-Muslim and they're trying to leave wherever they are or find support in their community, there's an organization that's not our organization. It's Ex-Muslims of North America, or Muslimish, are both organizations in the United States. But we can point them in that direction, right? So if they find us, then we can say, hey, we're not really the group for you, or able to give you the kind of support you need, because that's not what our mission is. But we're really friendly with this group over here, and you should go work with them. One of the things we're doing is we're going to be at the International Humanism conference in Miami. And so there'll be people from all over the world there. And so our leaders will be there talking to leaders from all over the world as well. So yeah. I mean, we do a lot of work in coalition. It is sort of like we don't necessarily sponsor chapters or do things. I mean, I'll send you some American Atheist swag in Australia. I'll just send you a box, no problem.
Do you mind can I split hairs on the whole American Atheist thing?
Sure.
It is American Atheist, not US Atheist. So do we cover Canada, Mexico, South America? Is it American Atheist or is it US Atheist?
That's some good hair splitting right there. Yeah. I mean, I would love to take over the entire both continents. That'd be fantastic. If people will donate and join, Chris, we can do that. We can make it happen. But until then,
name, right? We don't have to change a name or nothing.
That's right. We could do North American, South America. I can move to Canada. It'll be great.
I tell you, we have a guy who's in our sphere. His name is Randolph. Oh, come on, Chris. Randolph Richardson. And he is the president of CanadianAtheist.org.
Yeah.
And he, so there's branches. We work that way.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. we're happy to work with all of the groups, all of the international groups, all of the groups. It's just we have limited resources, limited time.
Right.
Our staff is working very
And I
hard.
think
Our
the,
volunteers are working very hard. And so, we have to kind of, unfortunately, if, someone wins the lottery and wants to give us lots of money, we'll take it. And then we can do lots more things.
I think the challenge too that you've got to remember is obviously the issues that are affecting the United States aren't necessarily issues that are affecting Canada, aren't issues that are affecting Australia or other parts of the world. So
absolutely.
And I think, not I think from what I can see, you guys have actually got it pretty bad over there as far as how religion is so entrenched in society. It's very peculiar to the rest of the world. Obviously, we'll have a look at places like the Middle East and obviously a lot of the poorer nations of the world. But then you see the US, which is, certainly a first world nation and certainly, probably the leading democracy in the world, but so entrenched in religion. And it's quite an anomaly, I think.
Here's something I've heard you say, Chris. This Duncan Downham, he says Australia tends to follow USC. I've heard you say that several times on the show.
Look, we do to an extent. Culturally, a lot of the American content, American TV, it stems from back in actually the Second World War when I guess we broke up with England because they wouldn't come and help us, but America came and helped us. And there were a lot of American servicemen, American culture, it really sort of seeped in.
TV.
Our Constitution, has stolen parts of the American Constitution, obviously, just with the Westminster system. But what we never really had was the religious side of things. I think, non-religious is actually the largest religious group, for lack of a better term, on our census at the moment. So,
hey, can I ask Miss Samantha, where are you headed next? You're on the road now, right? I didn't mean to distract Chris. I'm just kind of curious. Where are you going, Miss Samantha?
I'm headed home, thankfully. The
primary,
the first in the nation primary in New Hampshire is over.
Yes.
So that's why I was up in this area. I grew up in New England, as I mentioned before. So it was easy for me to come up here and kind of travel around the state and stay on families' couches as I bird dog candidates across the whole state. So I'm in Massachusetts right now. I have an event in Connecticut tomorrow night where I'm meeting with one of my local groups. Since I'm up in the area, I met with another local group earlier last week, and then I will head back home to Maryland.
Gotcha. Now, are you a big part of the political movement of American Atheists like Justin is? Because you've been bird dogging candidates yourself.
I have been, yeah. So our idea is to get atheist voters out there this election season.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've talked with Justin a couple times. He's doing a great job in Iowa. He's the first in the nation caucus. And so, of course, New Hampshire is next. And so I will give Justin props because New Hampshire is real tiny. It's like an hour and a half from anywhere to anywhere. And so I got to hit all the candidates in a week. Which he's been working for, months bird dogging candidates because he's got further to drive and more commitments. And so I got to, when you come to New Hampshire, and actually it's really interesting, there is a political tourism component to the New Hampshire primary where there was a lot of people who were from out of state who drive to New Hampshire to do exactly what I was doing for my job as voters, right? So they want to try to hit every single candidate and hear what they have to say in person, maybe ask a question, get a selfie, and they are doing that. And I want to know how many of them were atheists, right? Because I want to know how many of them are going to come and ask a question of a candidate like Justin's been doing so well and let them know that we are out there. So what was really great to me was the couple candidates who I was wearing the same shirt that Justin wears, this Atheist Vote shirts. There was a couple of candidates who recognized my shirt before I asked my question, right? Really? And so now I want people in South Carolina wearing that shirt. I want people in Nevada wearing that shirt. I want people in swing states like Virginia wearing that shirt so that they are asking questions of the candidates, and the candidates are like, oh gosh, maybe we should pay attention. These same people keep showing up. That's what AARP does, right? They show up with their red shirts and they have people signing petitions, and they're at every event. They were at every event in New Hampshire. There was AARP there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Why aren't we doing the same thing where 26% of the population is religiously unaffiliated? They need to pay attention to our voting block. And so that's the great work Justin has been doing, and that he and I are working on kind of continuing through the election cycle. But again, also when you're locally in your town hall and you are talking to your local state delegate or your local state senator, wear the shirt. Let them know you're an atheist. Wear a pin that says atheist voter. Introduce yourself and say, hi, I'm an atheist and this issue concerns me. We need to get our voice out there.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a wonderful idea. That recognition, if you can get it, that's something Justin and Zach and I have talked about on this show, is coordination between the individual states. There is coordination. There's never as much as we'd like. If you're doing what you're doing, if everybody was doing that in all the states, that would be good. Whenever, just like you said, they would recognize the pin. They would sooner or later go, you know what? There's actually a whole group of these nutbags and they're everywhere. I might start one to address their issue. Like Justin. Justin's all about getting out there. I don't see how he can stay so center of the line. He does a wonderful job. As passionate as he is about politics and voting, he does a wonderful job during the interviews of trying to stay nice.
And that's something I've actually said, and I take my hat off to him in a major way, because it's and I don't want to out him here, but it's pretty obvious in the conversations that we've had that he sits on a certain side of the political fence, and I can probably guess who he's not voting for in the upcoming presidential election.
Yeah.
But he holds a neutral position when it comes to speaking about atheist issues. He doesn't let his political bias, which we all have, get in the way. And I actually really think that's admirable, because there are a lot of people who don't necessarily lean on that side of politics. And we experienced it yesterday on a stream that we did, Chris, where someone came in and mentioned that they were a Trump supporter, but they were an atheist. And I actually do speak to a lot of people who are in that boat, and they still want their voice to be heard. And, the same issues are very important to them. It's just from a political angle, they're still on a certain side. I won't say a different side, a certain side. But my absolute props to Justin, because I think he does a wonderful job in being a voice for the entire community.
And Zach is passionate. Zach, I really enjoy talking to Zach too. Zach is a lot of fun. Zach is so in your face about what's going on. What, you haven't done that yet? Why haven't you done that yet? I'm like, okay.
I'm actually going to send him some stuff too.
Right.
Remind me about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I did try to get into the Trump rally that was in Manchester to go and be part of that. I ended up not getting in because the arena was at capacity, and they turned away a couple thousand people. Probably were still in line when they closed the doors.
Wow.
But it was interesting. Treated? I had some. I can blend, right? So, and I also talk to everybody. I talk to strangers all the time. My husband is like, can you not talk to the checkout person in line? That would be great. We just want eggs. And so that's just my personality. So I'm always talking to folks. So I had some interesting conversations with folks about why they support Trump. Of course, they weren't necessarily atheists, but it was just interesting. I heard a lot of people who were fearful, right? They're fearful of what their perceived power is and where that might go. I heard a lot about immigration, and we have to stop people coming into the country and that sort of thing. I was at a Tulsi Gabbard event as well, and she did a very interesting thing where she had all the Democrats raise their hands, then all of the Republicans, there was 5, and then she had all of the libertarians and independents raise their hand, and I'd say about a third of the room raised their hand. And so I don't necessarily agree with her policies and positions and choices that she's made, but I respect that she is very consistent in her platform, right? Her platform is that we need to build bridges, that we need to lean into each other, and that we need to figure out who's going to remove the person from the office that the Dems are running against. And she really is very consistent with that messaging. And again, I can appreciate the people that were in her audience, and I can appreciate the words that she had to say without necessarily saying, I agree with that, or, ooh, I 100% disagree with that, or I 100% agree with that. And so I think that is something that is lacking, people being able to listen to other people's opposing views and not immediately, make assumptions about somebody just because they're walking towards a Trump rally. And there's, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some people that you just can't have a conversation with, or I can't have a conversation with.
That's true.
But for the most part, I'll talk to anybody, including the checkout line person about my ice cream. So.
That's right. I went to a Trump rally here in Albuquerque during the last election, and we did get in. It was a lot smaller than. There were fewer people there. There was plenty of people. But the reason why I asked how you were treated was because on our way in, there were two. They actually had us separated by a street, the protesters who were protesting and the people who were going in. Now, I'm gray-headed, white, old, walking in. I had the New Balance white tennis shoes on. I looked the part of a Trumper. But I was not. It's just how I look. I changed that. I wear these different shirts now, and anything. I changed everything. My daughter is one of those millennials, and she just graduated from university with a doctorate in pharmacology, and she's telling me my shoes are not in style, so I had to make a change. Anyway, but when we were there, the dynamic between the two different crowds was worrisome. Both going in and as we were leaving, there was stress between the two crowds. I had people yelling at me who I'm on their side. They just didn't know because of who I am. They're yelling me, a hateful white guy kind of things without realizing. Of course, I'm on the side where we're all the forgive me, the Trumpians going through. So I've got people in front of me yelling at these people over here, stupid, derogatory term, and I thought that was very, and then on the way out, of course, the rally itself, it was just, the first thing he did was start attacking the camera people, the news, the Lugenpress. Was the very first. Anyway, as we left, there was the same kind of charge. There was almost a street fight between these two guys who were walking away. That was my experience at a Trump rally. Violence. So
the only thing that was super interesting and a little terrifying, honestly, was there was a very, very, very long line. It stretched a block and then across the street and then a block. And they had the street cordoned off and you couldn't cross it. And there was police in there and there's big old plow trucks parked everywhere as blockades, right? And there's a jumbotron talking about, the things you can't bring in because, of course, now he's president, so you have to go through actual Secret Service screening to get in, right? And so, but there's this disembodied female voice, and I wasn't really listening at the beginning. I did catch the tail end of it and posted it on Facebook, where she's talking about the fact that people come into the Trump rallies who are, I think she used the word infiltrators into the Trump rally, and that they are actually coming to protest and not to support our president. And if that were to happen, that they will be removed from the rally and escorted to a safe and secure location. And if you see such a protester within the crowd, you should take your Trump sign and hold it over their head and start chanting Trump, 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 and security will come and remove them.
Really?
So I was like, really? Because it was part of the spiel was, the president supports the First Amendment rights of his citizens almost as much as the Second Amendment rights of our citizens. And I was like, this is crazy. I feel like I'm in Gilead or I don't know where. Like, it was very strange. And I also walked around the entire building and saw no safe and secure place for the protesters. So I don't know where they were being escorted to, but
there was a gas chamber just around the corner to the left or a train.
I think one thing that's and I think both sides do themselves a huge disservice here, is I think the vitriol from both sides towards each other, it doesn't actually further conversations. It
doesn't further conversation, but it does further the objectives of the right to divide and to all the problems that it causes.
It's interesting you say that, but you just said a minute ago that you were walking into a Trump rally being abused because you were of how you looked.
Mm-hmm.
Just for going into
both sides.
So it is both sides who do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both sides, and it's
well. Wait. You can only be attacked so long before you get tired of being attacked and you attack back. And so we've got a rally where somebody's coming in, they're going to try to intentionally take away the rights of the lesbians, the gays, the trans people, and they were pissed. They were rightfully pissed. And at the same time, he's talking about getting. So there was people of color. That's the kind of people. It's like going and saying, well, the Nazis, if you're going to be against Nazis, then you're just the same kind of problem the Nazis are. That's what you're saying.
As a student of history, I can tell you there's a big difference between the Nazis and
That
what's
is
going
true.
And that's part of the problem. But and look, I say this as someone who is absolutely neutral on this, and you all, well, I guess you know where I stand.
I do.
But when it comes to this, I am absolutely neutral. But let's imagine for a second that you were a Trump supporter, and everywhere you go, you're getting abused by people. Are you going to suddenly want to have a conversation with them? No, you're going to dig your heels in and you're going to double down, and that's the problem. And
what makes you a Trump supporter? Is it the support for anti-brown people? Is it is it that you don't believe gay people should be allowed to have marriage? What is it that makes you a Trump supporter? Because it's what makes you a Trump supporter that's getting you accosted by the people. That's right. That's kind of what we're talking about.
Okay, I'll be very clear here. I am not a Trump supporter.
No, I didn't mean you. I mean
Trump.
That person.
Trump was the first president going into office who supported gay marriage. He had no issues with trans people using bathrooms.
And then he claimed to support gay marriage going in, but then he immediately made it to where he's trying to make it to where trans people are not in the military. Gay people are kicked out of the military. He's doing undoing all those protections for those people, despite lying and claiming he supported them on the way in. He did have. Am I wrong? So that's my problem.
I've got no idea. I've got no idea on that.
We really need to. Let's shift back to Missy. Yeah. Let's get back to her. She's our guest. Trump will still be a nightmare tomorrow, and we can talk.
Anyway,
still.
I did attempt to, and I missed out on Bill Weld, who's still in the primary race against Trump. Not that he necessarily has a chance of winning, but I did attempt to go to one of his events, and the scheduling just didn't work out. So, I do think it's important to listen to the people that you don't necessarily like. Mm-hmm. I'm obviously not going to tell you here which candidate I'm supporting personally, but it was really interesting to listen to all of them because they all brought something different to the table. And they all had, I went into things, I'm human, so I went into some of the events with preconceived notions about the person based on what I'd seen on TV. And sometimes those notions were knocked down in some way or another, right? And then I also went into some with no knowledge of anything to do with what they had on their platform or who they were, really. Right. And so it was really interesting being able to listen to the folks that were talking and also listen to the questions that New Hampshire voters had for them. What their concerns were, what was on their mind, and just being involved in the process in that way. I really, really, really recommend it. Again, New Hampshire is easy because everyone's there for that 10-day stretch between Iowa and New Hampshire. It's not as easy to do in your own hometown. You have to kind of stalk the candidates, and then you're going to get a million emails, and you have to ignore all of that noise to figure out where they're going to be. But as many folks as we can get out there being involved in the process. And again, yes, the national election, but also Senate elections are very important this year, right? There's a bunch of swing elections going on, and also local elections are very important. And if if you're not getting your voice out there, if you're not informed at a local level, then you don't know what's going on, right? You don't pay attention. And one of the things that I found really interesting about Andrew Yang's platform is he was talking about the lack of local media and how and I hadn't really thought about it, right? A lot of local papers are closing their doors. And so you don't know what's going on locally. You have to rely on internet platforms, and you don't know if those are reliable because you don't know who's behind them. You don't know who's producing them. You don't know what their agenda is. Right. And so it's really interesting, that piece of his platform that I had never heard on the debate stage, right? Because you only get little sound bites of things on the debate stage and from the media. And so being able to go and listen to his entire stump speech, and he's dropped out. And I thought that he had some very interesting ideas, and I'm really happy I got to hear them before he dropped out. Yeah. And so I think the more people we can get involved in this process as we go through the primary season and get people to go and listen to all of the candidates, not just your chosen one, go to all of them that you can. Anyone who comes to your state, go and listen to them, participate, ask questions, get in the selfie line, ask a question. Right. So that's Atheist Voter. Of course, obviously I have lots of other things going on across the country. So
Wes was going to ask you a question a minute ago, but his mic broke up. Can we hear you, Wes?
Go ahead, Wes.
I don't know.
Poor Wes.
Yeah, I can hear
get
you.
a word in edgewise. We got a lot of people who talk a lot on here. Sorry, Wes.
Yeah, that's okay. I've actually cut in several times, but I didn't want to cut you off, and I would forget most of my questions. But do you have anybody in Missouri? Do you know?
Yeah, we have an assistant director in Missouri who is our person that who's mostly dealing with our legislative issues. He's very excited about that. Again, that's his thing. He wants to go and testify on particular bills. But we don't necessarily have a person in Missouri who's interested in working with our affiliate groups and sort of building that community. So that's something I'm still looking for in that state. So
I'll email you people that I am going to talk to, and I may have them shoot you a message or something.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I'm definitely going to try to get the word out for you.
Yeah. So my email is smcguire, just like my name, @atheist.org. I'm going to say that again. smcguire, just like on the screen, @atheists.org. And anyone who's in the chat as well, who's like, hey, this sounds like fun. Yeah. Sam seems like she'd be cool to work with. Yeah. Go ahead and shoot me an email.
Wonderful. Rich Wallace, if you're listening, that'd be something you could do. One of my friends, he'd be great for something like that, you know.
So I know we're here to kind of talk about Atheist Voter, but I'm going to talk about a couple other things we're doing. We do have our national convention coming up. Mm-hmm. It is in Phoenix, Arizona, not too far from New Mexico.
I'm going to try to go there.
Come on over.
Zach has got me. We're trying to figure out about getting me a booth and live streaming and putting out for American Atheist.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. Hopefully, we'll see how that goes. But carry on. Yes, American Atheist.
Yeah. So our national convention is always a really great time. I've been to a lot of the org conventions, and I will say American Atheist is the most fun in terms of having social events and Cards Against Humanity tournaments and pub quizzes and stuff like that, as well as a lineup of wonderful speakers. And last year, we started having a kind of smaller workshop track where people are teaching skills on how to build community and or get out there and do activism. And we're expanding that this year. So we'll have even more workshop tracks, hand-on things, really come and learn some skills. And then we'll have, a bunch of speakers. So Tracy is teaching a workshop. Justin is one of our speakers. And then we, of course, have other national folks that are that was weird.
Sorry.
I know. Whoa. I moved. So there's a great lineup of speakers, entertainers, an awards dinner. It's a lot of fun. If you can get to Phoenix, please do come. And hope to see you all there. And then the other thing I want to mention real quickly is we have a couple really good tools for folks. We have the State of Secular States. We were talking about that grassroots effort to really track legislation across all 50 states. And the staff and Allison in particular put together an amazing report in 2018. And I feel like it's even better for 2019, looking at what was going on legislatively across the states and then giving them a scorecard to say whether or not they were doing well on separation of religion and government issues or doing poorly. Okay. So you can look at your state, you can see which legislation has already passed that we're supporting and which legislation has already passed that we're opposing, and sort of get a picture of what your state looks like, and what you might want to get involved in your own state. And so that's a really great tool. I really enjoy using it.
I wrote it down.
Yeah.
How much is membership, by the way?
What's that?
How much is membership?
I think it's $35 for a regular individual measure. There's different levels, of course.
Different levels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think $30 is what I saw if you just want to be a member.
Yeah, atheist.org. And you can either become a member or donate. Then you get a nifty magazine that comes to you, and then you get on our email list and you kind of know what people are doing and all of that. So yeah, it's, again, support all of the organizations that you think are doing important work. Of course, ours first, but then also.
Humanism too, but we're running out of time, I think.
I can stick around for a little bit.
A sci-fi question. because I know Chris here likes sci-fi so much. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Yeah, that's a good question. We kind of got to ask.
If you're forced to, I know it's tough when you're forced.
Hey, don't try.
Did you hear me? Did you hear me? My whole thing where I was just like, I talk to people and I listen to all the sides, and they all have value because people are humans, right? Both. I watch them both. I've seen all of them.
Okay. We need to have you back on Sci-Fi Saturday.
I'm trying to figure out how to stream Picard without paying CBS. I haven't figured that out yet, but once I do,
it's very, very easy. Get a VPN.
If you guys want to share a password with me, that'd be great. But
there you go.
I'm not suggesting anything here, but do you have Amazon Prime?
I do.
I'm not going to in any way suggest that if you were in Australia, according to your computer, that you could watch Picard. And I wouldn't want to imply that you should get a VPN at all, because
no, you wouldn't want to do that.
But
I had not heard that advice before. But I've been traveling.
Yeah, bad people do that. Don't
listen to him. Don't listen to him. No.
Oh, no, I was just making a comment about how myself in Australia with my Amazon Prime subscription and Amazon Prime, thinking on my computer it's in Australia, which it is. I get to watch Picard. So.
Well, listen, we already talked about we're going to set up a chapter where you are, so I'll just fly there and binge it. It'll be fun.
That's perfect. We'll just make it the state of Australia, the 51st state.
No, we'll have to get a few more states in there, but with 25 million people, that'd be a lot of electoral college votes we could get.
It would almost like California. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. Justin Scott is here. Nice to have you.
Hi,
good morning.
Justin.
Yeah, good morning. What are we talking about? A group trip to Australia?
Yes. Well, we're trying to.
Everyone's staying at my place.
We have to.
I love it.
Real or not? And then
I call the couch.
A very comfy couch. You'll be fine on it.
So I just want to warn you guys who are new to the show that if we get thumbs down on the show, that's actually the Aussies giving us thumbs up because they're upside down. I'm just letting you know. Don't let it get to you. Now they're texting hate. They're texting hate. Yeah. So Justin, thank you for joining us. Atheist Pastor is here. Miss Samantha is here. I almost called Wes Sam. I'm sorry. And I've been calling in my correspondence with Justin. I've been calling Sam Amanda. Hi, Amanda. Amanda's out there. That Amanda, actually. So I'd be like, hey, we're going to have Amanda on the show in the morning. He's like, who's Amanda? So, yeah.
Well, if you don't mind me jumping in, given what Sam was just able to do in New Hampshire, I want to start the show off with that. I don't know what you've been talking about up until here, but as somebody that has been on the ground and has done it and understands the sheer determination you have to have. I mean, especially when you start to go to these events and you're at the back of the room and you've got this goal in mind. I need to get as close to this person as I can. And then, an hour after she says she's at an event, all of a sudden her Facebook blows up with these photos. It's like, hell yes. Like she's doing the thing. Like, I love it.
She was rocking it, huh?
Absolutely.
I was pointing out, Justin, though, that I kind of, it's cheating when you come to New Hampshire because the entire state is this big and they're all there for 10 days. And so there's many, many targets of opportunity. So it was a lot of driving. I had a lot of fun. But it is easy. And I was talking to them about the fact that there are actually people who are called political tourists. They come to New Hampshire specifically to chase around all the candidates during the primary because it is a very short time span and everyone is there. And so
we actually had that in Iowa. I think it was the Des Moines Register had a story about political tourists from China that were coming to Iowa. But here's my biggest difference with what you just said, though, Sam, is that even in an area like Des Moines, we've had candidates basically living in Des Moines, and the difference is you went out and attacked it. You know what I mean? And yes, I'm putting Des Moines folks on notice. Like you had your chance. I mean, and Sam went out and did this thing. So we need to look towards Nevada and South Carolina now and see if we can't find people there to do the same thing.
That's right. So now
you're going to be in South Carolina, so.
Yeah. So who in American Atheist represents Nevada, and can I get that person on the show? Who in American Atheist represents North Carolina? Can I get that person on the show before, and hopefully after, like we did with Justin? Justin kind of he's going everywhere. He's just all over the place. So that's something else we've been talking about is coordination between the states within American Atheist, and how anything to increase it. Not it's not a comment on its current state. But no matter what its state is, we need to increase the coordination between the individual states. This political platform and this political election is a perfect opportunity to start that ball rolling.
Sure, it's literally my job.
That's her job. You know, I have this idea. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Thanks for the idea.
All right, so she's the person
you didn't warn him, Justin,
about
did you?
the Discord.
Yeah. So So
well,
Justin is headed to South Carolina this week. Yeah. And we're hoping.
Yeah, tomorrow morning, actually.
We're hoping he'll be able to hit a couple of events if they're already in South Carolina. I know that a bunch of candidates are headed down there. I'm going to be able to hit some candidates in Virginia. I have somebody going to Elizabeth Warren's is tomorrow in Virginia already. And then I'll be at Pete Buttigieg's, because I didn't get a selfie with him, on the 22nd, and they're making their way down to South Carolina. So then hopefully Justin will be able to find us some really excited, fired up folks and give them some pointers in South Carolina while he's there. And then I'll send him this Atheist Vote shirts, like the one that he's got on right now.
Boom.
To give nice. To give.
I was going to say, Sam, we gotta get Chris one down in Australia.
Hey.
Yeah. I already told him I'd send him some buttons and pins. You know, I mean,
absolutely.
I can do that.
Yeah, the more the merrier.
How long does it take for mail to get from the United States to Australia?
Well,
Depends
there's
if
an
it's
island,
by
right?
air or sea.
If you send it by Pony Express and then steamship, it takes a while.
Yeah.
But if you just use, FedEx like normal people, it's not that long.
Yeah, normally if I get something from eBay, it's about a week.
Yeah.
Don't they have like the vacuum thing that banks have on drive-ups, and they just say, just send it from the United States to Australia? Like,
well, see,
okay.
what you've
Bad joke.
Australia doesn't actually exist, so we're actually an island off South America, because the Earth is flat, as we all know. So it's actually closer than you think. It's very easy to get there.
Yeah, it's just an island.
You've been watching the flat Earther YouTubes, huh?
It's like Madagascar for South America. That's what it is.
That's the one. Love it when flat Earth Australia's not real. I'm just like, where the hell am I?
Chris, have you had a chance to talk about New Hampshire at all?
Me or that Chris?
Just
either Chris.
Any
Chris's.
We really haven't. And I, because of things that came up in my life, I actually missed watching the thing. So it was this morning I got up and I was like, Bernie, huh? Bernie, yay. I mean, yay. Anyway, so I had been waiting. I kind of looked a little bit before the thing. Wes showed up like an hour early, so I've been dealing with getting Wes going, and so I didn't get my normal time I'm blaming you, dude. I'm throwing you under the bus. Anyway,
you really are. We should be blaming Mathpig, really.
Mathpig, we really should. I don't even know if he's still here, but
I was like, this was a great idea. I'll come on the show the morning after the primary because I won't have anywhere I need to run to. Not thinking that I would be up until 1 o'clock in the morning watching returns.
You poor thing.
Yep.
So coffee.
Yeah, no. So Justin, we really haven't touched on it. She's been telling us about the atheist movement. She's been kind of filling us in on, how it works and how many people they have and what's going on with it. But we really haven't touched on New Hampshire yet. So get us.
Sure. Yeah. If you don't mind me sharing kind of my own personal view of what the hell happened last night. There is some interesting infighting, if you will, for the moderate vote. And we saw that come full circle last night because basically Joe Biden was nowhere to be found. And, many of us kind of beforehand assumed that might happen, but we didn't think the bottom would fall out so soon. And so you had a very strong showing from Amy Klobuchar. You had a very strong showing from Pete Buttigieg, but that kind of allowed Bernie to stay up above that. Mm-hmm. Looking at the exit polls and looking at the data, young people came out for Bernie quite exclusively, which is very interesting. I saw one report that he actually won more young votes than all the next three candidates combined, which, again, we're not here to endorse certain candidates or certain parties. But when you think about, the recent report that we talked about, I think it was in Newsweek, about how atheists generally go very, very progressive when they vote. And the fact that so many young people identify as atheist and non-religious, it's very telling numbers. And so I don't want to bore you with a bunch of data, but I was like Sam, I stayed up last night and I took out my little notebook and was taking notes of what New Hampshire looked like, what the exit polls look like, as well as what we're dealing with in Nevada. And everyone kind of focuses on this Latino Hispanic vote, which I know is there. But looking at the caucuses back in 2016 in Nevada, it was something like 50 or 60% of the people that went out and caucused were white women. So very, very interesting.
What's actually been really interesting, I've noticed, is Joe Biden seems to be working on a strategy where he's going for the states that seem to be, well, as he puts it, more diverse. Right. And I think that's a big mistake, because when you're coming from behind, I just can't see I know it worked for Clinton back in 92. 92, 96. Yeah, 92.
Yeah,
sorry.
92 sounds right. Yep.
Yeah. But I don't know if it's necessarily in this day and age a sound strategy. You look at people like Buttigieg. He's doing amazingly. Whether he can actually secure the nomination is another thing. As much as people love Bernie, I think that there'll be too much. I think he's got his 30% roughly, but I think there's still that 70% that will probably switch the other way, and unfortunately establishment never liked. But Amy Klobuchar, is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, Klobuchar. Yeah.
Hasn't she come out of nowhere? And I think that's bad for Elizabeth Warren.
Yes.
Which I kind of made the joke that Elizabeth Warren and Donald Trump on a debate stage would be very entertaining. I don't think it'd be necessarily a good thing, but anyway, but hasn't she come out of nowhere and really sort of taken that third spot for the moment and can potentially move up, I think?
Absolutely. And I think for me, what I thought about yesterday was that for the voters that think Bernie is too extreme, Elizabeth is too extreme, but they want somebody more experienced than Pete, Amy fits so nice in that little wedge right there. She's kind of carved out her own little thing. And I think it'll be fascinating to see how Amy does in kind of the moderate states like Nevada, like South Carolina. Does she take on the role of the Joe Biden for those? Joy Reid of MSNBC, I made sure to make a note of this. She said basically what they're gunning for now are the votes of the church hat wearing black ladies.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. Church hat wearing black ladies. And it's a very interesting concept. And again, don't get me wrong. My vision, given the demographics that are changing for us that are in our favor, I would like for Joy Reid in 4 years to say, well, how are they going to go down to North or South Carolina and get those damn atheists? Right. But I understand the way things used to be. And I'm glad you brought up in 92, that was a different world, because you could operate in the shadows for a while, show up, say a few cute things in a town hall, and all of a sudden people love you. But now every second of your campaign is scrutinized and blasted to the world on social media, that we're in like a 30-minute news cycle. Like every 30 minutes, it's the next new thing.
And where it's crazy for Joe is ultimately, if he wants to fight Trump, what he's got to remember is, and whoever the Democratic candidate is, they've got to bring back a lot of the disaffected white voter. That's who flipped, the people who were happy to vote for Obama but then flipped to Trump. That's who they need to bring back. And I think by attacking and saying we only want to get diverse, I think there's a big danger in that, because I think that plays into Trump's hands. So I think for someone like Joe, I think maybe he's going down, and obviously, his advisors are probably getting paid a lot more and a lot more educated than I am on American politics, but I do see a lot of flaw in both his short and long term strategy there. But I think then you get someone like Amy, and she just seems, she went under the radar, but she seems to be reasonably moderate. Like you said, she's I think 38 is the perfect age to lead a country personally. In fact, 38 is when you peak as a human. 2 guesses how old I am. And look, potentially Pete someone down the track. But what I think could be interesting is if Bernie and Tulsi were to run on a ticket. Now, that could be interesting.
So let me interject a couple things, because I was in New Hampshire talking to folks in line. Again, talking to strangers, what I do. So, I think that Biden leaving, there was a lot of people who were still undecided walking into the polls in the morning in New Hampshire. They did not know who they were going to go vote for. And New Hampshireites have a mean independent streak, and they're very proud of their state, right? And so I think that there was also a mistake made for him to announce the morning of the polls opening that he was leaving the state and going to South Carolina. That probably, not enough to make him have won, but that probably took a chunk of voters who were like, all right, fine, you don't like New Hampshire, you're going to go to South Carolina, I'm going to vote for Amy, right? And so I think that they didn't take that into consideration. Having grown up in New Hampshire, I felt like I was home. It was fantastic. I had so much fun, people yelling at each other in the line, and it was great. But they're very independent minded, and they like to vote for the underdog. And so taking both those things into account and then announcing you're going to leave and not even wait for the polls to close, I think was probably a mistake. Not enough to gain as much ground as he lost over the entire campaign, but certainly probably impacted a little. And then also Amy in New Hampshire talking to voters and talking to folks. Yeah, she's catching that moderate vote, but also I really watching her. We were talking earlier about me going into some events with sort of preconceived notions about whether I would like the person or not. And watching her on the debate stage and watching her on her media pieces, I've always felt like she was a little uncomfortable talking to folks and didn't do a really great job of showing that sort of polished leadership quality that I miss in our former president, that is lacking in the current president. And Pete's got that, right? But in New Hampshire, I think she really got her feet under her. She started to really connect with the audience in a way that I don't think she had before. She seemed more comfortable. She seemed more relaxed. She seemed like she was more willing to kind of just ease into what the little niche role that she's carved out for herself. And I think that it did good. I feel like the audience felt that. And so they were like, okay, this is someone I can actually vote for, which I kind of like what she was saying before, but it didn't connect. And now they were seeing her on the stage, engaging with the audience, relaxing, laughing, having fun. And I think that spoke to the voters.
That's good for her. Well, What about either one of you guys, both of you perhaps, what are your thoughts on the buy-in billionaires?
I was just going to say, if you don't mind me jumping in and taking this, like,
they won
all this great movement by Klobuchar and all this, out of nowhere with Mayor Pete, and yet the new dirty word is Bloomberg. Mm-hmm. And what's fascinating are the people that are just committed to the man. And I had 24-hour news on all day yesterday as I worked, because I was infatuated with it. Those of you that follow me on Facebook, I made a big post about how much I just love this time of year. But the fact that you can just flood the airwaves with ads that say you're the man for the job or the person for the job. I mean, I was telling my oldest this morning, again, if you follow my social media, he's a political junkie in training. But the first thought he had when he got up was, Dad, how long till Super Tuesday? And I went, holy crap, I didn't even know that Super Tuesday was a thing until a couple of years ago. And here you are 9 years old and you're asking me about it. But it is scary to think that you can have a candidate that has done zero retail politics, that doesn't answer questions, that hasn't been on a debate stage yet, right, all of a sudden come in and destroy people on Super Tuesday, and suddenly he's a front runner.
Yeah, did he get the numbers to be able to participate? Did he do this? Did he make it over in this state? No, he just kind of waits until half that crap is over, throws down some coin, and he's in. And that's kind of the thing I didn't think was quite.
There would definitely be an irony with former Democrat Donald Trump running for the Republicans going up against former Republican Bloomberg running for It's in Australia, in the election we just had, we had a similar situation where there's a billionaire, a guy called Clive Palmer. He's a mining magnate. He set up the United Australia Party. He absolutely flooded. I mean, we're talking every ad break on every channel. There were 3 ads, and it's not a cheap market to crack here. So it was just constant. In fact, I can still hear his song in a year later. But he ended up with about 3% of the vote because people just got sick of it, and it was over advertised. It was just too much. And so you might have that. And look, I'm not on the ground in the US. I am doing a PhD in history and politics, though, so I've got a bit of an idea of what's going on in the US. I just can't see him making the impact that people think he is. I think he's buying some airtime. He'll get a little bit of a splash, but look, the Bernie voters certainly aren't going to go that way. And I think there's enough moderate in the middle, like this, as far as the candidates and the support for those candidates. Someone like Amy, I think she's the one to watch. She is really the one to watch.
The thing I worry about with Amy, though, is that Amy who are we talking about now? No, I'm in Albuquerque. I have no idea who this woman is. She's a national political candidate. I don't know nothing about her. Neither does my neighbor. Neither does this other person. We all know who Bernie is. We all know who Warren is. But with her, there's a lack of name recognition that this political cycle, I think, will work against her.
Who was Barack Obama?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
I was just going to say. No Barack Obama. She is
right.
Barack Obama. She's not even on the same stage with Barack Obama. Not even.
But does New Hampshire?
She could be.
No. I was just going to say, if New Hampshire provides a springboard to a very strong Nevada and suddenly a very strong South Carolina, and then we're looking at the overall delegate count, and she's in the top 3 heading into Super Tuesday. I mean, if I heard, she raised $2 million in 24 hours, and then put on another $1 million right after that, after the debate on Friday, I believe. I mean, that's just remarkable fundraising. I mean, don't get me wrong, it doesn't put her in the league of Bernie, who raised more in 1 month than most candidates raise in a quarter. But still, you can go from nothing to something.
Yeah, it's increasing her mental awareness to people like me. Totally. All I'm saying is not that she won't. It's just that, who is she again? She's got that to overcome. And if she's doing it, that's wonderful. Now, as far as her being or not being Obama, that's never going to happen. It doesn't matter what she does in the polls. I'm talking about the cult of personality. Her ability to get up and stand and speak in front of Obama is not the same. That's what I'm talking about. In a month,
right.
She's not going to be able to drive the people he was able to drive. That's all.
And my point was that she's getting better at that. I felt like she was getting better at it as she leans into her role there. Somebody on the comment was like, Klobuchar's good, but Elizabeth Warren is smart and personable.
That's right.
And I will say, part of the reason that Justin and I are doing this is to spotlight things that are atheist issues and humanist issues and non-believer issues. And Klobuchar doesn't have a great track record on that, right? She was the one that proposed a bill to give public funds to churches to do renovations, which of course most of the people in our community opposed. It doesn't mean that she's a terrible person. And I think part of what we were talking about earlier was the idea that we have to have a perfect candidate, right? And so I do feel like, having spoken to her, that she would be open to a conversation to figure out why that was a bad idea and why people are upset about it. Gotcha. Elizabeth Warren is already there, right? Elizabeth Warren is already like, hey, I recognized your shirt. That guy in Iowa had that shirt. How did I do on the question that had to do with faith? Was my answer okay? I was trying to point out that you don't have to have faith to be a good person. And then we had a great conversation about, if she does interfaith stuff, which she kind of already messed up on one time, that she needs to make sure that she invites non-believers to the table, and she has humanists and atheists and other religious minorities in that. And she was very open to that conversation, and in a way that was great. And so she struck me as the most paying attention to our issues and being concerned about how we feel about her as a candidate. Not that Amy couldn't get there, not that Amy, I think that she's willing to have that conversation. But I think, again, what we're talking about, coming from that privileged view of not understanding why those things are upsetting, to, we were talking about it with the "In God We Trust" labels on the sheriff's cars, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. They're like, we'll just give this great nonprofit that's doing stuff money.
Right.
And they don't pay attention to the fact that they're violating separation of religion and government because they don't really take the time to think about it. And so our job is to get in their conversations so that they are thinking about it, so that they are like, hey, gosh, I wonder what the atheists, the humanists, the agnostics, and also, by the way, the other groups that are not represented are thinking when I talk about God in my stump speech, when I talk about giving money to churches. And so that's part of the conversation that we are trying to make sure that the candidates are having. And we have varying degrees of success with that. So
if I can be the doom and gloom of that whole moment, Sam and I work so well together, and I'm excited for what this is going to do because she's the good cop. I'm the bad cop. Like if you follow me on Twitter, late last night, I carpet bombed every single candidate because I was so pissed off at how they all failed us. No, seriously,
you're great.
No, seriously.
I'm laughing with you.
And so as Sam points out, on one hand, yes, Elizabeth was the one. I really thought she was going to become our champion in Iowa. She was going to meet this crazy bearded mouthy atheist, and all of a sudden the next stump speech was going to say, I met these atheists and they were wonderful people, and I think y'all should care about them. I'm kidding. But when I asked her if she would take on the challenge of bringing on a secular outreach director, and she first gasped and then was like, you know what, that's a fantastic idea. Let me put you in contact with my state director. And then literally nothing came of it except for what Sam said was the botched interfaith thing, which, Sam, do you mind kind of telling the listeners and viewers what that was about that may not have heard about this? Because I'm pretty heated about it still, and I don't want to say bad things.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, you have to understand that any of these candidates are going to be more open to our point of view and to be inclusive of our community than Donald Trump's campaign, frankly, because they're really trying to hinge in and bring in the conservative Christian right in a way that is bolstering his popularity, right? So they're not going to listen to us when we say, hey, you should be thinking about non-believers. So any of these candidates in the Democratic field are more likely to listen to us. And because you track them, there's so many moving parts to a campaign as they move along, and it's pretty easy for the candidates to just rely on staff and have the staff do things. So Elizabeth Warren put together an interfaith thing and tweeted about it. And when we looked at it, it was 14 Christians and 1 Jewish person, right? So that's not exactly interfaith, right? And it certainly didn't have any non-religious folks at the table. And so I think like the intention was good, but it failed, right? It didn't happen the way it should have. And she deleted the tweet.
Like a weekend at Mike Pence's place.
She deleted the tweet and she brought that down, and I haven't seen anything about it. I'm assuming if she launches it again, she'll do a much better job because she got a lot of pushback, not just from us, obviously, right? There was a lot of other people of faith who are like, hey, there's Muslims. They live here too. And there's other folks. So if you're going to do something interfaith, have everyone at the table, make sure non-believers are included. And so that's actually what we were talking about in the selfie line, held at the selfie line for a couple minutes. And I didn't necessarily call her out on it and say, hey, you messed up on that. But I made sure that we had a conversation about how that should be done correctly. I think she's willing to listen to that where other candidates are not.
And my twit. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, quickly. So I'm just going to jump in because I've got to go now.
You got to go.
Because it's actually 1:30 in the morning here. So I need my beauty sleep. Believe me when I say I need my beauty sleep. So I just want to. I'll say goodbye to everyone. Really good to meet you guys. Really love I love the American political chat because it's just so weird. It's the rest of the world. We honestly we scratch our heads, but you guys seem to make it work. So
that needs to be the new slogan for this show.
It's weird.
We love American. We love American politics because it's so weird.
Well, look, as a student of politics, I can certainly say it keeps me entertained. So, Yeah, but look, just want to thank everyone, and I hope to chat to you all again very, very soon. And everyone in the chat, I've enjoyed the conversations, so thank you very much, and good night.
Save your spot on your couch.
Absolutely. I'll send you an email. I got your email.
Gotcha. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead now. I'm gonna do something real quick. Watch this. I'm gonna do this. And I'm going to do this.
Whoa, look at that.
There you go. Now I got us in order where we were there. All right. So
look at it. I'm going to reach over. Sam, let's high five. Let's high five. Other one. High five. High five.
Fist bump.
Yeah, fist bump. There we go.
We're the intellectuals in the group. Wait, is it this way? All right. There you go.
Okay.
That's fun. You guys are awesome.
The walls are closing on me.
So you know, I gotta be honest here. You know, I didn't really keep up too much with politics. I mean, like I said, for those who care, nobody cares. But for those who do care, last election I voted for Bernie in the primary, and then I voted for Hillary in the thing. That's kind of me. That's my whole bag.
Me too.
I had a whole lot of not care about politics. This time here, I've already given my prediction to Justin. Trump will win. Trump and his corrupt politic will try to get him a third term. I've said it. I've got it on video. I'm not kidding. Now it seems crazy, but a lot of things that have happened in the past 3 years would have seemed ridiculous before the election. You'd have gone, wait, he's going to do this? No, there's no way that would happen. And yet here we sit, right?
So especially after yesterday. Oh, no, especially after yesterday. And I'm not talking New Hampshire.
You're talking about Roger Stone. Yeah, he's got the corruption in the politic that he needs. He's going to start pulling out his people. There's no stopping them now. They're done. Just they're done. Our
Joe on Morning Joe this morning basically blamed Senate Republicans and said, you know what? This is all happening because you just gave Donald Trump a blank check.
Absolutely. Gave him free reign to do anything he wants.
Oh, it's frightening now. I mean, if you thought the snowball was pushed off the cliff now, that thing's picking up speed.
Well, I don't mean that. Of course, it's easy for us to turn this into an anti-Trump conversation, and I don't want to do that. I'm sorry for letting me do that. Let's get back to an atheist voting conversation. What can we do? Because I see that as a win for us because the majority of us are on this side, and therefore, if we can get us engaged, sure, there's some people that don't understand the situation that are on the other side. But if we could get our movement going, that would be a powerful voice for our cause alone. And our cause is the cause of, primarily the left, I would think. But like she was saying, policy. We support the LGBT. We support this. We support that. We may not support this specific candidate, but we support all the same things they support. That's kind of. I'm learning the rules.
Yeah. So that was part of our conversation before you came in, Justin, is what nonprofits can do and can't do in terms of candidates, and the fact that we can certainly take positions on issues that are important to our community. And again, atheist voter, it's 2020. It's a national election right now. That's all well and great. You need to be involved on your local stuff too, and be electing your dog catcher and your school board and your everybody. And those votes in a lot of towns and cities come down to like 3 people sometimes, right? So if you want to be up here talking about national candidates and national elections and what's going on in a national level, you better know what's going on in your own hometown, in your own backyard, right? And you better be trying to affect change there as well. So that's really, I'm going to keep beating that drum because 2020 is going to come and go, and we're going to end up with whoever we end up with. I'm kind of on your side, Chris, honestly, in this conversation, where I think that we'll probably have another 4 years of Trump. But trying not to have that happen and trying to get people out there to vote and trying to make sure that we drag people to the polls. I mean, it was interesting this year in New Hampshire. One of the things that I thought I would do while I was here is I drive a giant van.
Okay.
And I'm in New Hampshire and it's the primaries. So let me drive people to the polls. Let me literally pick people up and take them to the polls. And I couldn't find an organized group that was doing that in New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire's pretty small, so I get it, and it's just the primary. But you would think that with all of the lip service we're giving to voter turnout, that there would have been an easily found volunteer opportunity for me to take my giant van and drive people to the polls in New Hampshire. And so And yet there was not. I looked at, I mean, there's a website that's up that was from 2018, and I went to the NAACP website. I went to League of Women Voters in New Hampshire website. I went to all of the things places I could think of that might be organizing something like that. And I found nothing. So, drag your friends. Yeah. Somebody's saying, make sure you drag them into voting. Yes. Literally put them in your van and take them there and have them vote.
Do you mind if I bring up a different topic that is very much the reason why we should focus on the Trumpism that's going on?
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Am I okay to plug a book on this show?
Please, but you plug anything you want. We're
it's not my book. Don't get me wrong. I'm in the thinking process of coming up with them. I have so many ideas, and I blame you for most of them. But Christian nationalism is running rampant, and the bad example I give is in Iowa, we either get floods or we get tornadoes. And everyone always asks, as an Iowan, which one do I prefer? And I always say a tornado, because oftentimes it's a clean cut and then it leaves. Whereas a flood will find every nook and cranny.
Messes up
and it never goes away. And it can be the smallest amount of water, and you'll still be feeling the effects 3, 5, 10 years later. Mm-hmm. That's what Christian nationalism is. It's a flood. And that flood is is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's spreading and it's touching other things. And the book I was going to plug is Founding Myth by Andrew Seidel, the amazing constitutional attorney up at Freedom from Religion Foundation. And, shout out to FFRF, shout out to all of the folks there. But, the one thing that I just remember seeing in that book that just totally goes back to this conversation is that the single biggest issue for people that supported Trump wasn't their political ideology. It wasn't so much their religion or race or gender or any of that. It was whether they thought that America was a Christian nation. And that's terrifying.
It really is.
Because with 4 more years of Trump, with let's just say another 150 to 200 federal judges that are unqualified, that are Christian conservative zealots, that want to implement this Christo-fascist version of society. I know everyone's, and I'm guilty of it too, but this whole, we're going to end up in Gilead one day. Mm-hmm. Obviously it's not going to be exactly like the book and the show, but I think we are as close to that now as we've ever been. And when they say that this election is the most important one in the history of our country, it boils down to Christian nationalism for me.
You're not wrong. Yeah. Well, that's something that we've been talking about. Was one of the things they have is organization. They have organization. They're unified, even though they disagree. They're all heretics according to each other. 200 years ago, these people would be slaughtering each other, but now they're unified against us. They're unified in forcing their nutbaggery on our kids in school. They're unified in trying to force their stuff on us through bills and policies and politics. And we're sitting here going, how do we get unified? There's parts of us that are not. Miss Samantha was telling me about some wonderful things going on the East Coast. Are those things going on the West Coast? We don't even have a rep in the West Coast. We need ducks to get in a row as a team. Anything I can do with my platform to help that, I'll help it, because we're all on the same page. We're swimming in the same direction, just like them. They're not even swimming in the same direction. Everywhere else they fight until it comes to us.
Yeah. Sam, did you talk about Project Blitz earlier by chance?
Yes. We did. So we talked about Project Blitz and we talked about blitzwatch.org. And so, Chris, the thing is that we need to build coalitions with other groups to get these things done.
I've mentioned that too.
We need to be out there working with the other groups, because there's a lot of them that are on the same side as these issues. And we might not be on the same side of all the issues, right? But if there's a group that's working for LGBT equality, and that's what we're working for, then we need to work with those groups. If there's a group that's working for medical aid in dying, which is something we also support, then we need to be working with Compassion and Choices, because they're the ones that are taking the lead on that. And we can just add our voice and add our members to that. If we're working on the women's right to choose and access to medical health for women, then we need to be working with those folks, right? But you're going to have different coalitions for different issues we're working on. The Catholic Church is very supportive of getting rid of the death penalty, right? But they're very opposed to a lot of those other issues. And so if you can work with them on getting rid of the death penalty in your state, but you can't work with them on repo rights, and you can't work with them on medical aid and dying. But usually, oddly, they're happy to work with you on LGBTQ group equality. So you have to be, again, plugged into what is going on locally at your state level, so that you know who the players are in your own state, and then help us get good policy passed and help us oppose bad policy, which comes mostly from Project Blitz. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yep. And in some cases, though, like I'm going to continue using New Mexico only because of what I know about the situation. There's no, let's just say if there is no, we'll use the if there is no state director or assistant state director, then there's nobody to watch it on the state level. Correct. Let alone granulating down into the city level and doing to your local community. Right now, we need to fill the slot at the top, and from there work our way down to not just this state, though, any of those states that are missing those fundamental roles. We need to just get out the word is kind of I say we as a part of the team, but I will hopefully either way, one fashion or another, be part of the team. Either way, we're all on the same team.
Yeah. So generally, when we're moving into a new state where we don't have a state director, what I'll do is I'll talk to the person and find out, again, what their thing is, right? Because not everyone's thing is the same thing. Some people want to go testify on bills. Some people want to go and do community service. Some people want to just have a sense of community. So find out what their thing is, and then figure out what role is good for them, right? So if they just only want to build community in their city and that's what they're after, then they can become an assistant director in their city, pay attention to what's going on in their city, and do that, and be an assistant director in whatever their city or county is, depending on, or area, region. Right. And then usually what I like to do is have a few of those, and someone will kind of rise to the top, right? Who's just really super invested in making sure that their state is represented and going to events all over the place and coordinating things like Justin does, right? Coordinating all of the local groups to get displays in the Iowa State House over the holidays. So we had all secular displays and no religious displays in the state of Iowa. That was exciting, right? But I'm not always going to find a Justin off the bat. I might find someone who just wants to do their own little thing locally, and that's great. I still want them, right? So I think that I hear what you're saying. We need to get a state director and then get all these others, but it actually kind of goes the other way. We get lots of little local folks, and then eventually someone's like, we need to coordinate more, and then they can step into that role of state director and be the coordinator for that state. And we are tracking things in the states that we don't have folks. So one of the things, again, Allison Gill is amazing, and I don't know that she actually sleeps between December and May, because I don't know how she does all the work she does, because she is tracking legislation in all 50 states and writing testimony on hundreds of bills, and making sure that if we don't have a person there, she's our national person and she'll submit it nationally. But it's always better to have the signature of someone local putting testimony into the state legislators, because they're like, that national thing in DC, we don't need to listen to them, right? But if it's the local Iowa state director, the local Oklahoma state director, you should be talking to Tim Ward as well. If you're talking to the local person, then they're more likely to listen. And they're even more likely to listen if you show up and testify. If you're in the hearing and you're talking on the issue with knowledge and with your personal experience that you're bringing to the table, they are more likely to listen to us. And so we have to be there, and we have to show up, and we have to come out of the closets, put on your atheist hat and your atheist vote shirts, and get out there.
I love it. And you mentioned a great name that kind of, Chris, you're not wrong about let's get a state director. Right. But I think it's also what Sam said about, just keep an eye on the ground level and see where that swell is, because Tim Ward is a perfect example. Yep. I remember last year I was mowing the lawn one day, and all of a sudden I got a call from this guy in Oklahoma, and he's like, "Hey, are you Justin?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Hey, I'm Tim. I'm in Oklahoma. I need your advice on some stuff." And straight up, that dude has been killing it. I mean, and he has taken his own path, and I've enjoyed watching it as, just somebody from states away that kind of does my own thing. And it just reminds me that you can come from all walks of life, all levels of experience, all level of drive, You don't have to have any special qualifications to be a state director. Like Sam said, we just want to know that you give a shit. Sorry, I cussed.
No,
we just want to know that you care and you're willing to go out and do the things that the average person either won't do, can't do, or, you know, may just not be cut from that kind of cloth to go out and do. And that's okay. I mean, we need all hands on deck, no matter how you fit into that.
Well, she used you as a great example earlier whenever she said that some people are into the politic, and like Justin, he's out there doing the politic. Other people are into this, and whatever you're into, follow it. Yeah. So it seems like there's one of the things we're not short of is opportunity within the American Atheists.
Oh, absolutely.
It looks like there's lots of opportunity. There's lots of opportunity out there to anybody watching to go join these guys and help them do their thing. There's links at the bottom to American Atheists, and I went ahead and dropped some links down to American Humanist Organization as well. Show them some love, or anybody. So join, people. I'm going to join. Well, I'm thinking about having a join party. We're going to have a join party.
Join them all.
And what's so fun is, like, okay, so I do really well, I think, at politics, but I struggle on the community side. I wish I was stronger on that, but I feel like I spend so much time and energy doing the politics that I owe it to my wife and kids to just, okay, you know what? If somebody else wants to run the community part and they want to do that piece, you know, go for it. But, you know, there's state directors like Troy Moss. Holy crap. I mean, does that dude ever sleep? He's in Indiana. And not only is he taking on, you know, church state issues inside public schools, but yet then they're doing like towel drives and clothing drives and stuff for the schools. And it's just, he totally inspires me and actually kind of humbles me to remind myself, like, there's a huge bar to reach. and that's okay. I think that's what I enjoy the most about it, is like, it's competitive, but it's also friendly, and we help each other. You know, just a few weeks ago, I was helping Troy and another state director on an issue in Indiana. And I love that. That's one of my favorite parts, is this family feeling of, it's not just, oh, we're going to get together at convention and that's where we'll get to like catch up with each other. I mean, we are literally in the trenches together every day, all the time.
Wonderful.
No, and I love that we have, you know, I mean, if you become an assistant state director, one of the resources that I think is real valuable is the Facebook group that was created, and people are in there. And so they can say, hey, I'm thinking about doing an invocation in my town. What has your experience with that been? And you'll get the 5-6 people who have done that coming in and commenting about what they did, what works, what worked for them. And so it's not me, again, like we talked about earlier, it's not me saying, here's how you're going to do this, right? Here's the position you're going to take. Here's the thing you're going to do. Here's the specific item. It's not that. It's whatever people find interesting, whatever they feel like is needed in their community, whatever it is that gets them out there and doing the things. And we've built a pretty good support network of, you know, some states where there's a team, they have a group chat that's going on all the time, and they're talking to each other about this event and that event and things that we should be at. And then we also have the chat where everybody's in it, and people can share their perspective, share their experience, talk to Justin about how to go bird dog, talk to Troy about how did you set up this affiliate group that gets all of these reports of state separation violations, right? Like they get a ton all the time. People like emailing them, how did you do that? How did you get yourself known in that way? Tracy, how do you have this amazing, no strings attached community service event that served 40% of the homeless population of her small little city in Texas, right? How do you get there? How do you do that? And so everybody can talk to each other and really share their experiences. And I think that that's really valuable and very important. And so, you know, anyone new coming in, there's a community and we can help you do whatever it is. And so, and again, Tim is a great example, again, because he was an assistant director and there was a different state director. And our state director in Oklahoma had some personal stuff going on and needed to step back. And Tim stepped in. And so he's now state director and she's assistant state director. So back to that conversation we had of volunteers come and go, they ebb and flow, right? Like they get busy, they have things, they've got lives, they've got kids, and trying to be very aware of that and offer support and, you know, give financial support where we can and resources where we can and make sure that people feel like they are affecting change where they are. So that's my whole job, literally.
Well, it's good. I mean, that's one of the things that I was actually asking Zach just the other day when Zach was. I was like, "Who do I talk to?" Well, you're the person I talk to.
Yep.
So we've got her links down there. If you've got questions, want to join or want to do anything, get with her. She'll tell you. She'll get you hooked up. That's wonderful. I also want to. She said something earlier, Justin. Pardon me, about this atheist voter shirt you got there. She had one. She told about how somebody recognized it. Can we get atheists across the country to start wearing that shirt? Let me ask a couple questions. Do you have that in a Teespring type merch store?
It's our store, American Atheist store.
We have
it for sale. But if you will pledge to go out and get a selfie and go and ask a candidate a question, and you are promising me that you will do that, and then tweet it, Facebook it, and email me the picture so we can use it, I will send you a shirt.
Okay.
We have a bunch of them. I'll send you one, but I have a bunch I can give for free. But that particular design, the candidates are starting to recognize.
That's
and
exactly
so
right.
if you pledge that you will go out and do that, then I will send you a shirt. I'm going to get that Oprah t-shirt machine, right, Justin? You get a shirt. You get a shirt.
Yep.
That's right.
She's basically going to get to go along with her giant van. She's going to get a giant private jet, and she's just going to fly across the country and just throw them out.
Well, I just thought it was
have some pins.
Right. Well, it's branding. Everybody knows branding. Whenever you sit down and you see a Coca-Cola, you don't even have to see the words. You see the can and you know what you're looking at. It's the same thing. Whenever I'm not that political, I'm blaming Justin. I would not be as political as I am had he not kind of got me and drugged me in. And now I'm here going, what the hell, man?
And isn't it cool to be at the intersection of all these other issues and politics? I think for me, that's what's been really fun, is that it's not just, oh, those damn Republicans or, oh, those damn liberals. I mean, we even noticed that there are liberals that are somewhat hostile. I mean, it just depends on what part of the country you're from, just whatever that little flavor of it feels like. But Sam, if you don't mind, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you know that, like, a handful of states where we could really use some help, so that if there are, listeners or viewers out there that either live in those areas or know somebody that lives in that area, we could maybe try to get that ball rolling?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're looking at the battleground states, right? So we have the early caucusing and primary states, which are very important because the candidates are there. But then once that kind of settles down, they will be in the battleground states and trying to, connect with voters there. Mm-hmm. So let's see, we have Nevada. Obviously, we have somebody there. They're not super active in the political sphere, so we need to find somebody who's more active in that. Colorado is one of those swing states. Ohio, which we actually have a fair amount of folks in Ohio, so we should be good there. You probably could list this off much faster than I have a Google Drive with a doc that has them all listed out, but you probably can bang them right out. But really anywhere that the candidates are going to be campaigning, again, you and I were talking about Virginia. Somebody said, where are things in Virginia? And then you went and found a website that's kind of incomplete, but at least there's more information on there of where town halls are. I think it was townhallproject.com. And it relies on volunteers to post things, so it's not entirely complete, but it had some information there. And so we'll already have, because they're driving, and you don't know what the targets of opportunity are. They're driving their buses from New Hampshire to South Carolina. So I guess some candidates were like, why not stop in Virginia? That's a swing state. So they're stopping in Virginia, but there's no way to know what that looks like unless you're tracking them locally. And so there's some stops in Colorado on their way out to Nevada. There's a couple of folks stopping in Colorado. Elizabeth Warren will be there. So it is a target rich environment, but it's hard to be like, okay, the candidates are going to be in this spot after Iowa, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Carolina. Then they all kind of spread because Super Tuesday is next, right? So.
And here's what's really exciting. And I go back to my experience in 2016. I had never done it before. I had no clue what the hell I was doing. I didn't know what the best questions were. I really didn't make a, quote, splash until probably like my 7th or 8th event that I went to. And by that time, I kind of had a little head of steam, like, hey, I've done this. I kind of feel comfortable with this. And I just happened to be listening to a secular podcast. And one of the hosts had said something like, hey, Marco Rubio, he talks a lot about his faith. Is he running to be commander-in-chief or pastor-in-chief? And I went, ha, light bulb, there it is. I said, I'm going to ask that. And I'll tell you what, that thing exploded. I mean, exploded to a degree that even if, we would have put Tom, an amazing communications director, on top of this, I don't even think we would have gotten the type of response we got. Time Magazine immediately came up to me afterwards, was like, hey, can you talk to us? Can you tell us, why did you ask that question? And you're an atheist. Okay. New York Times came up to me. The USA Today, Associated Press, once the AP gets a hold of it, this thing just takes off. Before I knew it, the campaign had downloaded my video and then re-uploaded it as if it was their own. And then shortly after that, they started sending campaign fundraiser emails out, basically trying to fundraise on the backs of this interaction that Marco Rubio had with an atheist in Iowa, and tried to slant it as, oh, those atheists, see, we took a stand against them, not realizing that there is a percentage of their constituency that, identifies as atheist, is non-religious, just like small government and having every gun known to man. So where I'm going with this is, you don't have to be a state director to make a splash. You don't have to know the best question or even a question. We can help you with that. And all of a sudden you have one interaction that just goes viral, especially now. I mean, with so many different social media platforms. I remember seeing a story a couple weeks after my interaction went viral, where then the major media, like the Washington Post, was asking, did the mainstream media miss an opportunity with that moment? Right. Like, that's insane in my mind. Like, it's one thing to get local news. Okay, yeah, local news is going to be at everything. Okay, now I got state coverage. Okay, that's kind of cool. To all of a sudden see my video on the Megyn Kelly show on Fox News, and then to have her literally start a segment off by saying, hey, you had an interesting run-in with an atheist out in Iowa. That means something. And if you're an atheist out in Timbuktu and you're thinking, I'm all alone, I'm the only one here, and you hear about this, like, right, that's all it takes. So,
it was a deal like that, really, that one of my earliest was Chris Hitchens, when Jerry Falwell died. He was interviewed on CNN, and I forget his name, Anderson, interviewed him, and I saw the advertisement before. I was like, an atheist, right? Really? You're going to hell? Because I was, still back then. And then I couldn't believe they would have him on. I couldn't believe what he said. He blew me away. Whenever he talked about the newly dead Jerry Falwell, and he said that the guy was a nutbag and he should be selling pencils from a cup, I was like, man, this guy is my spirit animal. Right? And had it not been for that, though, my whole course may be slightly different, because he's had such a big effect on me, that encounter, just like what you had.
Look what happened with Wolf Blitzer after the tornado in Oklahoma.
Actually, I'm an atheist.
I remember that.
Actually, I'm an atheist. You know what that did for people around the country?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was an amazing moment, and we just need more moments like that. Like, let's use the power of media. Let's use the power of social media. Because even during Iowa, I blew up reporters and beat writers that were embedded with these campaigns, practically begging for coverage, begging them to do a story on us, begging them to get a hold of Sam or Nick at American Atheists to do these types of stories. Yeah. They wouldn't come within 100 feet of it. So it's like, you have to push the issue.
I'm curious, do we, I know it's going to sound odd. Let's see if I can formulate this right in my mind here, but do we ask a candidate to fall on their sword for us just to say that they would support us? Do we do that? Because a lot of candidates to come out publicly and full bore for atheists would just be the end of their campaign. So you're asking them to do that.
That's the question for me, not Justin, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Justin and I have different approaches.
Okay, carry on. Yeah, because that's what he's trying to do. He's asking them right in public.
Yeah. No, Justin carpet bombs, and Justin and I have had this conversation too, honestly, because in 2016 it was a lot easier to ask a question that would get you viral, that really was in their faith and like the question of Rubio, and really make a splash with that and turn off voters to that candidate if they were atheists, right? It's a lot harder in this field, as we were discussing earlier, because generally all of the candidates on the Democratic primary side support separation of religion and government, and they are more friendly to our community. And so it's a struggle, because you also don't want to give that talking point to the other side, right?
Exactly.
So You don't want it. You want to say, are you okay with separation of religion and government? But you don't want to say, hey, Pete Buttigieg, you're a Christian and you don't care about atheists, and then put him on a spot where he has to defend his faith in some way, right?
Right.
And so it's a fine line in asking these questions, which is, again, why I say bring it back to issues that we do support. Ask for their position on LGBT equality. What are you going to do about, Pete Buttigieg is like, he's going to, one of the first things he'll do is he'll take away the trans ban in the military, right? We're on the same side on that issue. So I don't want to necessarily beat down on him because he's a person of faith, but I do want him to be more inclusive in his language. I do want him to realize that we are here, that 26% of unaffiliated voters are polling at 7% for Buttigieg, right? Because they don't like all his talk about his faith. Right. It's not because they don't like him because he's LGBTQ, he's gay, and he's got an adorable husband, and he wears really cute suits. It's not because of that. It's because he talks endlessly about his faith, and it's off-putting to people who might support him otherwise. Right. And I don't think he realizes that, right? He thinks, gosh, I got to beat on the fact that I have this faith and that I believe in God because I am gay, and so that's what I'm fighting against. So I'm going to pull in that vote, but he's not thinking about the people that he's alienating in his conversation. Right. But again, as a candidate, I bet you he's willing to have that conversation. I bet you he's willing to hear that and listen to it. And maybe he already has, because as I tweeted, his conversation in the town hall I was at had a lot less to do with his faith and a lot more to do with inclusion. And I don't know if he's getting that message. I don't know if he's hearing that. But there definitely, to me, was a change from things that I've seen recorded from him in the past, where he kind of downplayed that bit and talked more about inclusion and how this country is for all of us. And we don't care about your ethnic background. We don't care about your religion. We don't care about. And he was way more into that messaging this time.
If I had more free time, I'd be very curious to track the transcripts of all the stump speeches that he gives in South Carolina. Yeah, because I think it's going to come roaring back.
I see him in Virginia, so we'll see what he does in Virginia.
Yeah, well, I just keep us.
Sorry, Chris. Just in the old school movie theaters where they would keep track of attendance, they do a clicker.
Click, click.
I think we should have. We should have God clickers. American Atheist branding. There you go. This atheist voters God clicker for debates.
I like it. It just kind of seems.
Put it up at clicker rating, so there's a graph that goes up and down.
And of course, you have to.
I love it.
You have to start the graph like Fox. So if you've got 150 and you've got 149 over here, make the 150 really big and the 149 really small.
For any older millennials, remember the movie American Pie, where they talk about how many partners you've slept with?
I remember.
They talked about that. You take it times 3 or divide it by 3.
All right, guys. Well, it's time for us to wrap it up. I want to thank you guys for showing up and talking with us. And thanks to Wes for helping guest host and Atheist Pastor who was here earlier. Yeah. Thank you, Miss Samantha, Justin, again, for joining us. Obviously, we're going to have Justin back for sure. Miss Samantha, you're always welcome to come.
Sam's amazing. Bring her back all the time. She kicks ass.
You've got these, what did you call them earlier? Your flunkies, like Justin? No, I wasn't.
Flunkies.
You got these people out here.
I did not use that word. Volunteers. I'd much rather you talk to my volunteers. I'd much rather you talk to my state directors, my assistant state. They're doing the good work in their towns, in their counties, their cities, and their states.
Absolutely.
Than have me sit and talk about what they are doing. I'd much rather that folks like you who have the platform, bring them on and hear what they are doing instead of me talking about the things that I want them to do or should be doing. It's much more important that people understand that our volunteers, our assistant state directors, like Justin said, are regular people, and they are out there doing whatever they do, and they might not do it perfectly the first time, and that's fine. And just building that support and community for folks to get out there and do whatever it is they're passionate about.
Wonderful. Well, that's good. Anything we can do to use, like my platform, I'm sitting here going, yeah, let's use it. Let's do it, because that's already the direction I'm going. I want to
come back on and talk to you about Maryland legislative initiatives that we're working on. We're doing medical aid and dying and a couple other things, Patient Right to Know Act we're working on in Maryland. So
we'd love to hear about that. That'd
more local stuff.
And we've also got the politics going on. We got a lot of politics going on, and we got things coming up in different states. And I would love to get with those state coordinators, state directors, assistant state directors, and have them on the show before. Be nice to have them before and after. So let me know. I got a schedule. We can really work this. Get that atheist vote thing out there. And see, that's why I was asking about your T-shirt. Less about can I have one, and more about can I put links on my website and my Facebook,
store.
my YouTube to your store and your thing. That's kind of what I was asking.
It's the AmericanAtheist.org, and I think it's just /store. I think is what it is.
I'll go find it. And I'll drop links. I'm sure y'all won't have a problem with it. I'll help shill your merch. I'm shilling my own merch, so I may as well do it. So thank you, everybody. Thanks to all the people in the chat. This is, I think, our second 2-hour show. Normally we don't run 2 hours, but hey, we did it. So thank you all. Knuckle bump. She's knuckle bump.
Oh yeah, that's right. Hold on. Ready?
Good job.
Send it around. Send it around.
Oh yeah. I don't know. We're all just
Wrong way.
How do they do that?
Oh yeah. He's going like Trump in that thing where we're holding hands and he's going, what the hell?
Right.
Anyway, thank you to everybody for joining us. You guys are wonderful. Easism, all of our people over in the yes, you can. Amanda, yes, you can. You're going to be fun, Amanda. Amanda's going to be with us tomorrow. She's going to be Hooch Godless Mama. So she's going to be on the show. Anybody, you guys send me a list of recommendations. Sometimes there are people you'll send me, Justin, and I'll send them a friend request, and they may not know. So so I don't get nothing back from them. So I have to go, hey, can you let them know? But if we'll work together, we can get people. I've got my schedule this week is full up. My schedule next week has got 2 slots available. And actually the show's kind of working, so I'm getting more slots. So as we go with these politics, I'd like to get your guys in. You, Justin, for sure. But if you got other people in Nevada, do you have somebody in Nevada who would like to come on the show? Or Nevada, depending on where you're from?
Nevada. We got a town in Iowa. We got a town in Iowa called Nevada.
Nevada. Yes. Really? Do y'all have somebody in there I need to speak at? Get me with them, and we'll get them on the show because I've got some room in the next couple of weeks kind of set aside for politics. Also, this morning show is a great idea. I love it. I got a great time slot. It's fine. Politics gets a little boring for morning show people. So,
well, and one thought could be the intersection of non-religion, either politics or LGBT. Just all the spokes on that wheel.
Yes, but I'm considering doing an evening stream that would be more directly aimed at politics and leave the comedy to the beginning. That'd make it easier for folks who have been on the road and didn't go to bed until 1:00 in the morning. So I'm going to do that. I'm probably going to start an evening show. It'll be more specifically political.
Doing shows from my dad's basement. I am a YouTuber now.
Well, Justin has been threatening to do his own podcast or something, and I would just as soon have him be a regular on one of my evening political talk shows. I would just as soon, if he's got time, to have him. Part of my deal is I don't want to host them all. I want to produce in the background, and then I got to find hosts willing to dedicate the time to show up and do the show. People like Justin has a message, and he's looking for a platform, and I can help him with that platform. We can work together. So.
Yep. I'll get in touch with other people that you should talk to as well.
Absolutely. And whenever you find out the person I need to talk to about that whole New Mexico state director thing, you just let me know.
Slacker. That's what she is.
I'm telling. Yeah. All right. So thank you guys very much. I want to do this. I'm going to get everybody off of here. And I appreciate you all once again for showing up. I would love to have you back again. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Thank you, Wes, I just talked the whole night away. So sorry.
That's okay. It's been a pleasure being on the show, and it's good to meet Samantha and Justin both.
Absolutely.
I didn't have much to say either because I was enjoying the conversation.
We'll talk another time about secular humanism and what that means. I know that you wanted to get that in there.
Yeah, I did.
So
maybe we'll have a chance some other time or after the show or something.
I got lots of show. We got lots of show. And like I said, I'm going to come up with more shows. So we'll figure that out. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to kick us out here. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
Yep. Take care.
There we go. Let's see if I can do this.